Welcome to What's Trending, your go-to podcast for staying informed about what's trending in the ever-evolving landscape of Westchester and beyond. We are your hosts, Amanda DePalma, Senior Vice President of Events and Development, and Dr. Marsha Gordon, President and CEO of the Business Council of Westchester.
On today's episode, we're exploring the ever-evolving landscape of digital marketing, how platforms, tools, and strategies are transforming how brands connect with audiences. We have three incredible experts with us. Andrew Castellano, founder and owner of Shark Creative, also the producer of the BCW Podcast Network. Dominic Kuchera, social media and digital advertising manager at Thompson & Bender. And Mike Giordano, founder of Buzz Potential. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you for having us.
Great to be here.
Thank you so much, Marsha.
What's Trending is sponsored by Thompson & Bender. Thank you for the support of the BCW Podcast Network. Looking for unparalleled success in PR and marketing? Look no further than Thompson & Bender, the leader in strategic communications. With over 30 years of expertise, they've mastered everything from PR and advertising to social media and event marketing, ensuring their clients' success. Recognized with awards like the Business Council of Westchester Hall of Fame, City and State Power 100, and voted Best in Westchester for advertising, public relations, and social media by 914 Inc., their track record speaks for itself. Join the ranks of clients from Fortune 500 corporations, small businesses, educational and healthcare institutions, and many more who've benefited from their innovative strategies. Trust Thompson & Bender to elevate your brand to new heights.
Dominic, Mike, and Andrew, please tell us about yourself and your business. We're going to start with you, Dominic.
Oh, wonderful. I get to kick it off. Well, I've been the social media and digital advertising manager at Thompson & Bender for about 3.5 years now. And Thompson & Bender as a whole is a full-service advertising, marketing, and public relations firm. We do everything in-house. We have a full creative team. We do advertising placements. We create campaigns. We do full ideation process. So we really are a one-stop shop for anything social media, public relations, marketing, or advertising.
And we are proud to work with you on social media for these podcasts.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I always get to see the amazing guests that you get bring in, and just hearing the conversations that happen here are really, really fantastic and awesome to watch.
It's great. And Mike Giordano, someone else we are totally proud to work with, who does all of our other social media and so much more for us.
Thank you, Marsha. Yes, let's see. I tell people I've been in this since 1979. I started my college newspapers. I've been marketing since then. And I've been a business council member since 2002 and loving it and working with small and medium-sized businesses on marketing, social media, PR. And sometimes clients ask me to make salad or clean things, and I do that.
And you'll do it.
He goes above and beyond.
And he always wears the swag and the glasses.
Yes.
He always does. And that's your brand. And it's because you represent your clients so well. And Andrew Castellano, tell us about yourself, your business, and a little bit about these podcasts.
Yeah, sure. Well, Marsha and Amanda, thank you so much for having me on the show today. It's a special treat. Marsha, I've been an ambassador for the power of audio ever since I can remember, really 1996, starting in the radio business. Made a career at WFAS with our engineer who's also sitting at the table with us today. And that sort of led into the creation of Shark Creative, which branched off for specifically on-hold messaging. When you call the Business Council, you get the on-hold message that we've been doing for many, many years. And it's expanded into all other audio forms, including podcasting, which is what we're doing here today. And, I did want to throw out a little tidbit about podcasting, if you wouldn't mind.
Please do, because with your leadership, we've been wildly successful with the BCW Podcast Network.
And it wouldn't happen without you guys, so I'm certainly very grateful for that. But it's interesting that podcasts have come so far, right? It was 2004. A guy by the name of Adam Curry, and for those sitting at the table, you remember in the 80s, the MTV VJs. Adam Curry was a VJ on MTV, and he is the one that developed what's called an iPodder. It took the ability to take audio from radio and put it onto your iPod. So the conversation between Steve Jobs and Adam Curry ended up starting podcasts as we know it today. And so from 2004 to today, you've had over 504 million podcast listeners, and we're talking about 3.5 to 5 million podcasts. And of course, we're included right in there. The BCW Podcast Network is a part of a huge sea of podcasts, but it's really come a long way, and it's only growing. It's incredible how much time, effort, money, and everything else is put into podcasting.
And it's amazing how much we're all learning, how much we're all growing, and how much we're being entertained by podcasts also.
For
so
sure.
It's a lot of fun. And Andrew, we're so pleased you have joined the Business Council of Westchester's Board of Directors.
Yes,
So,
I'm very proud of that, and I thank you for that too, Marsha. And we have a lot of work ahead, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
yes, yes.
So basically, what you're saying is all roads lead back to Apple or MTV. So
It's pretty interesting. They were onto something, but there you go. The iPodder, developed by Adam Curry in 2004, and here we are 20 years later with just again something that has taken over, and podcasts are everywhere.
crazy to think that started out as something probably so simple back then and just what it's grown to be. So I'm going to direct this to everybody, and we're going to start it off with sort of the hot word on everyone's lips, the algorithm. Platforms like Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, they seem to update their algorithms constantly. How do these changes affect organic reach, whether someone's using it personally, content creation, business perspective? I know there's a lot there, so let's just unpack it.
I'm going to let the experts at the table take that one on. I mean, Dom and Mike, you guys know about algorithms. I just like producing stuff and pushing it out there and hoping it makes it somewhere. But honestly, I'm listening.
Well, algorithm sounds like a dude. Like I got to talk to algorithm about my. The algorithm changes every second. It seems like.
Yeah.
But what we found out some interesting stuff, and you have to be open to learning all the time. And that's what I like about digital marketing is you can't rest on your laurels. My background was print, and print kind of sort of rested on their laurels for many years. Radio did too, to a degree. But what we're seeing now is arguably daily changes. We've been doing, so with partnership with Thompson & Bender, we've been doing advertising for the podcast here. And what we found out was very interesting is that the Facebook and the Instagram ads did very well and got a lot of, action. LinkedIn, not so much. And LinkedIn, we spent a lot of money on it, but it wasn't getting the traction that we thought. On the organic side, with podcasts or any post that we do, as for the business example, as an example, is on LinkedIn. No matter what happens, no matter how long you've been on LinkedIn, pictures of people at events always work the best. Always, it's universal. That hasn't changed the algorithm. So kind of like SEO, search engine optimization, good pictures, good video. Not so much hashtags anymore. Works well on social media. And Dom's more of the expert on the ad side because the ad side supplements what you do organically, and also they want you to buy ads.
Absolutely. I mean, I completely agree with everything that Mike just said. And I think overarching, it's important to remember that the algorithm is built for one specific reason, to keep you on whatever platform you are. And what that means is it's going to categorize and sift through all the content that's out there, through all the people that you're following, all the pages that you're following, and try and find the best content that it thinks that you're going to enjoy. So that's based off of your previous interactions, if you're liking things, if you're commenting on things, if you're sending messages to friends. The algorithm's going to see that and say, how do I keep this person here? Give them more of what they want. So it's important to recognize that as the real overarching part of the algorithm, in the sense that it's going to constantly be changing, but it's changing to try and optimize off of your individual experience. So having that as kind of always in the background of knowing that when you like something or when you comment on something or you share something, all that's being played into it. And that's why the algorithm's constantly changing, because we're constantly changing the platform itself. You're uploading new content. You're changing what is out there for people to find. And those platforms are really, really focused on trying to make sure you stay there. So as Mike said, they can sell ads to you because you're also going to see the ads as part of that process.
Right. It's not a coincidence. I was going to say, it's not a coincidence, by the way, that you're getting some content that's related to stuff that you did like, or that you listened to or watched for a while. So just everybody has their own unique ability or their own unique sort of, we'll call it a station of information that's coming to them. based on what they put into it.
Or someplace you shopped.
Yeah,
No, absolutely.
Yeah, very dangerous.
But the other thing that's important too is that you, as a marketer, have to know your audience. So by studying those statistics, and I think that's where, especially for smaller businesses, they really need to look at their results for their social media. You can see, we know on LinkedIn, all of us know on LinkedIn that pictures from the great BCW events are going to do well. We know that, but we know that because we study it. So that's not going to change. However, other things, other stuff you put up, you experiment, and you got to see what people like, but you've got to know your audience. If you don't know your audience, you're going to waste a lot of time and energy.
Very true.
Let's face it, adapting to these constant algorithm updates is very challenging. What are some practical tips each of you can share for aligning content strategies with these changes?
Well, I can answer some of that. I mean, I would say that, look, what we're doing here today, right? We're producing a podcast. So most people maybe years ago hadn't thought about that as a way for them to put content out there. But you using audio, you can take it with you wherever you want, and that's going to help you broadcast your message, get your message out there. There's lots of other ways that you can do it using audio. Now, granted, I'm biased here. I have a affinity for audio, but audio's been working for so many years, and there are so many ways in which the audio can work for you, whether it's in the form of a video behind it, whether it's in the form of just speaking like we are now, or putting it behind the social media ads that you have, the music, the what I like to call thematic logos. That's a jingle, right? When you hear that, you can't help but hear it, and it gets stuck in your head. So I will, stand on a soapbox about that, because I know that with all the years being in radio and everything else, you may not have heard something for 15 or 20 years, and all of a sudden you hear it again, and guess what? It's familiar to you. It's familiar to you, right? Whether it's music, right? Some of your favorite songs, we have an attachment to that. We have an attachment to voiceovers or radio DJs, or hopefully people who are producing or putting out these podcasts, hosting these podcasts. You get to be familiar with them, and so that would be one little secret sauce that I would say is to make use of the audio, make use of a professional thematic logo or jingle.
Dom?
No, I completely agree. And I always like to use the example of the Burger King ads, because as soon as you hear that, you know exactly what's coming at the end, and it just brings back those memories. And a lot of times what brands like to do is use that as a kind of overarching theme that not only goes into the content they're producing, but also how the recognition starts to build. And a big part of that is all about creating those personal memories. So when you have that personal experience of going to Burger King with your parents when you're only 7 years old and getting that Happy Meal, you'll still remember those small instances. And when you're able to make those connections as a brand, it really elevates you to the next level. And with the algorithm as part of that whole arching conversation and how you're creating your content, building that into your process and making sure you're creating almost like categories of where it's touching in, but still having elements that flow across all the content you're doing is key to really building that brand reputation and that brand identity that you're going to be instantly aware of what it is just by hearing 3 notes. If you can hit 3 notes, you know exactly what they're talking about. You've hit gold. You
also have to be cool with change. And I think that's it, coming from the print industry where change wasn't really accepted that well. You have to be comfortable with change and be able to deal with change, because it does change every 5 minutes. And if you're not comfortable with change, it's a problem. And you have to be cool with change. So that's a key element too.
So I'm going to say the other word on everyone's lips, artificial intelligence. So let's talk a little bit about that. From ChatGPT to image generators, AI is just, there's no way around it. It's just transforming content creation. How does this impact sort of your own individual work? How do you see digital marketing evolving with AI? How do you see the changes within these content creation platforms embracing or rejecting AI? Well, what are some thoughts there?
And also any ethical concerns, as long as we're at it.
Yeah.
Well, definitely I'll take the ethical concerns first, because that's kind of foremost in what we kind of focus on, at least when we're creating content for our clients. And a lot of it is creating a policy, having something written down of this is what we're going to utilize AI for and how it's going to complement the work that we're doing, not replace it. I think that's a huge problem that we're seeing with a lot of brands right now, is they're relying on this artificial intelligence just to replace a part of their process, whether it's drafting content or going through the creation of images, whatever it may be, not having that personal, or I should say human, touch to it, and making sure that the editing, the voice, the tone, all those elements are built into it. A lot of times you can notice it. And I love watching on social media when you can pretty much spot which posts were developed using AI, because it'll use very similar language, because AI has been trained to use this kind of tone or this kind of messaging because traditionally or historically it's seen that that's resonated with people. The only problem is it gets very worn out. It gets very tiring when you're just seeing the same kind of content over and over again. So you really want to make sure that you're utilizing people in the process and not replacing them. Utilizing...
That's the key right there. I
Yeah.
think, you just said it. It's not... You still have to have the people to be able to put in the information, and they're going to decide what should be in there and what shouldn't be in there. And we don't know where it's going in the next 3, 4, 5, 6 years. I mean, it's come a long way, and I would say to those that are listening, you do need to embrace it for sure. You can't hide from it. It's already there. We use it at Shark Creative to help develop certain things. I talk with ChatGPT all the time. Sometimes I just ask questions just to find out what my little friend is thinking, and it's pretty interesting how I'll get an answer that I'm sort of in line with, and then I'll ask ChatGPT to hone it a little bit more, and I just get more and more information. But at the end of the day, I'm not just going to take that and put it out there. It then goes in, and we have to think about what makes sense, what doesn't make sense from what the internet is essentially telling us, right? But yeah, we've talked about this before, even on the panel that BCW did a month or so ago about embracing it. And like Mike said before, you've got to be ready for change, and you've got to evolve and move forward all along.
You have to embrace it. The trains, when the trains got in trouble, when they forgot they were in the transportation business, my friends in the newspaper business forgot they were in the news business, and they tried to protect the print, and then what happened in the newspaper industry, unfortunately. So you have to embrace it, you have to understand it, you have to use it, and you have to be cognizant that it could be dangerous if you let it be dangerous. So I agree with Dom. You see it all over now, these fake, especially they see these when he's 60 years old and the guy's ripped. It's like, dude, that is a AI thing. And you can get ripped that way, usually with roids. But you know what I'm saying? It's just you have to be cognizant that it's there. Use it as a tool, but don't let it overtake your creative process. Because if you become too dependent on it, you're going to lose. You're going to lose a lot of your creativity.
For sure.
And a lot of the platforms are even taking that into account now. They're putting they're making you put disclosures on your content
Very
when
true.
you are using
Yes.
AI. So they're even recognizing that it's becoming too systemic in the system of how they actually create content and how that content's delivered to their audiences.
I love that they're doing that.
So do I.
That's
Important.
good stuff.
Now let's talk about influencer marketing. It's everywhere. First of all, we should each just define what it is, because everyone has a different thought on this. But how do we ensure that influencer marketing is authentic? And Dominic and Mike, I know this is specifically your domain, though. Of course, Andrew, if you have thoughts, please share them. And tell us what's going on and what's the difference.
I'll start with that because. So for me, I'm thinking local. I'm thinking Westchester, sometimes Hudson Valley, depending on what's going on. And I like local influencers. Influencers, for me, for the kinds of things that I do, I don't need national influencers. And the other key thing about influencers is the influencer actually promoting what they're supposed to promote and not just promoting themselves. And that's important, because if it's just about them, that's not good. They're just using the client as a way to promote themselves. So I think if you're going to hire or work with an influencer, you've got to tell them exactly what you want. You've got to get the measurement from them, and you got to give them boundaries. some of them are great. Some of them are like automatic, no problem, but other ones are not. And they're a little bit, I'm going to promote myself too much. And the other thing is viral, which is kind of part of that as well. When something goes viral, you want it to go locally viral if it's a local company. Having people all over the world see it for a retailer that's in Bronxville isn't going to cut it. And so that's another thing. An influencer will say, oh, we did this, this, and this. But if you look at the numbers are all over the place. It doesn't help me if I'm just focused on Westchester or within a certain radius of my store. So you have to know them, and you have to kind of keep a little bit of once you understand who they are and you got a good one, that's fine. But because you guys use them as part of your promotion with your clients, right?
Yeah, we love working with influencers, and especially local influencers. And a key part of the whole decision-making process of when we're going to use an influencer, to who the influencer is going to be, is which of the influencers that we're kind of evaluating and examining have the best audience that resonates with who we're trying to reach. So understanding who the influencer's audience is, who's already cued in with what they're posting, is important. But a big part of it is also the brand that they're going to be representing. So if, let's just take for an example, Cross County Center, who's one of our clients that we work with influencers quite a bit with, having influencers who are focused on, in certain cases, fashion or parent activities with their children or food, making sure that the influencers really resonate with that kind of content, and then building a relationship with them that lasts longer than just a single post. So often people think of it as just an influencer is going to be a one-shot deal, you do a post and you're done. But what we found is the best results you're going to get is when you're having a relationship that's built over time, because it's not just a single post, it's building a relationship with the audience that you're reaching with that influencer. And when you build that trust, you build that real credibility that comes with having the influencer, because that's what the influencer is giving you, is credibility with their audience.
How does that blend into paid campaigns?
It certainly goes into part of the process when you're developing what content you're going to be using for whatever you're trying to promote, or whether it's a service or a product. It can be supplemental to it. I don't usually like to use influencers as the sole point of contact for a campaign, simply because you're just reaching their audience then. Utilizing an influencer as part of a larger campaign allows you to really dive into some interesting and more detailed parts of, let's say, the service or product that you're selling, but still have a broader brand awareness campaign running simultaneously. So it gets put into a part of the campaign, but it doesn't become the entire campaign as a whole, because there's so many other avenues you have to explore.
And Andrew, speaking of rising trends like influencer marketing, podcasts, as we've said, have certainly exploded in popularity. What makes them such a powerful tool in marketing?
Wow, I'm so glad you asked, Marsha.
Who knew?
Well, look, I think, first and foremost, there's something very authentic about a podcast, right? And you're building a rapport with the host as you're listening. There's trust that's built there. So that I think is at the top of why a podcast is so powerful. It expands brand awareness, right? You can use it like Dom's doing with Thompson and Bender, and Mike's doing with Buzz Potential. We're taking bits and pieces of the podcast and using 30-second clips, 10-second clips, 60-second clips to put out on social media. So it's not just about the actual 22-minute podcast, but you can break it up and push out the content. It's cost effective. You've got positions of thought leadership. Like today, we got all these experts at the table.
Absolutely.
And so you can bring in the experts in the field to help you drive home the podcast. It drives multi-channel content we talked about. It's niche marketing. So we were talking earlier, Amanda and I, about how many different podcasts there are out there. And so you could get lost in a sea of podcasts. But the flip side of that is that there's a podcast for everybody. And, if you really want to find out something, you can locate it and you can drill down on it. And that is also what makes it very effective. It boosts your SEO, and you can have it on demand, right? So you can get it wherever you want. That's another great benefit. It's mobile. You could be in your car. You could be working out.
And it lasts forever.
And it lasts forever. There's a shelf life.
And I think it can lead you to other things. You might start off listening to one podcast and you either hear an ad or you hear them mention another podcast, and it brings you to something else. So it's still sort of in line with why you were listening to podcast number one in the first place, but it might take you down a road and introduce you to different hosts and speakers that you never even knew about until you kept going.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, I think we could continue talking about this forever. I really do. We're going to have to
It's a
bring
marathon
this back.
podcast.
Yes.
I would just say the one thing that really quick, and everyone can kind of just give in their two cents on it, like 1 or 2 tips that you have for leveraging social media effectively, especially from a small business perspective. So, Mike, I'll just start with you. We'll just go around real quick.
One of the things I think they need to do is they need to leverage video better. And one of the ways to do that is to do short little interviews, like you're getting interviewed on 60 Minutes, under a minute. I think people need to start doing that. And I've seen it be very strong, where if you're sitting there with the camera in front of yourself and you're like, it doesn't work, it's better to have someone interview. So that's one thing. And the second thing is, know your numbers. Study your back-end numbers. See what works. See what doesn't work. Data. Constantly testing. Yeah. You can test very cheaply looking at what the data is. So those are two tips I'd have.
Anyone else? Anyone else?
I would say pay attention to what you like. If you're keeping track of what you enjoy seeing on social media, replicate it. You can steal ideas. You can steal kind of themes to utilize on your own stuff. But if you're not going to enjoy seeing it, your audience probably isn't either.
Use it as inspiration.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to shock the audience here. I'm going to say don't forget the audio. Because if you think about it, if you watch something and there's absolutely no audio there, it does not have the same effect. Can you watch a great Oscar-winning movie with no audio? No, you can't. Can you watch a video and not get the most out of it if it's just completely silent? No. So make sure the music is matching. If you have that thematic logo, great, but be sure that whether it's just a clip of audio or you have some music that's bringing it together, that would be my tip. Don't leave that out.
Well, thank you all so much for your time today. Really just an incredible conversation. So thank you all.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure. And we also especially want to thank our sponsor, Thompson & Bender, and our listeners.
Be sure to check out the BCW Podcast Network's expansive lineup of shows. Leadership Unleashed, Advocacy Unplugged, Member Spotlight, WIN, the Innovation Roundtable, and Talent Trailblazers. Stay tuned for our next episode of What's Trending, premiering next month. The Business Council of Westchester is the county's largest business membership organization focusing on economic development and advocacy. With over 1,100 members, it is our mission to work for the profitability of our members and prosperity of the Westchester community. To learn more about the Business Council of Westchester, please go to thebcw.org.